Hello and welcome to day three's history lesson. We are still looking at the Crimean War and hospitals and nurses, but we're going to learn about a different nurse today, and her name was Mary Seacole. To start with, I would like to think, what do you already know about Crimean hospitals? When was the Crimean War? What was it like for the injured soldiers in the army hospitals, and who was helping the injured soldiers in the hospitals? Who is it that we've been learning about? Talk about those things. You might want to look back in your pack to help you find the answers. When you have talked about them, then carry on with the video, but talk about them now. We're learning about Mary Seacole today, so let's find out who she was. You have this information in your pack. I'm going to read through it. If you want to pause it and read it first, that's fine. But if you want to read it with me, let's do that now. Mary Grant was born in 1805 in Jamaica. That was her name when she was born. Mary's mother was Jamaican and her father was a Scottish soldier. So her father was from Scotland, not very far away. Jamaica is over in the Caribbean, so it is quite far away. Her mother was a doctress. Doctress is a healer. Maybe she used African and Caribbean herbal remedies. Medicines made from plants to make people better. Her mother was a nurse as well, and when she was 12, Mary started to help her mum look after the sick. And Mary took over a hospital for soldiers in Jamaica. She cared for the soldiers and also their families. On the 10th of November 1836, Mary married Edwin Horatian Hamilton Seacole in Kingston, Jamaica. He died 8 years later. So he died only 8 years after they were married, but that's when her name changed to Mary Seacole. She travelled to the Crimea, where the war was that we were learning about the other day, and at the British Hotel, picture of it there, hospital, she cared for and treated injured soldiers. So she also helped British soldiers in the Crimean War. She died in May 1881 in her home in London. So after she'd been a nurse in the war, she moved to London. Challenges, that's on the next page of your pack. There were quite a few challenges in her life, things that made it harder for her. She decided she wanted to care for soldiers fighting in the Crimean War. So Mary travelled to England and went to the War Office in London. They were in charge of the soldiers. She wanted to help with the work Florence Nightingale had started, but was turned away. They said, no, we don't want your help. In those days, there was a lot of racial prejudice, which meant people were treated differently because of the colour of their skin. We talked about that in school before. You may have heard in the news at the moment as well, there's a lot of conflict in America to do with how people are treated because of the colour of their skin. And that's been going on, sadly, for quite a long time. But Mary didn't let that put her off. She was so keen to help that she paid for herself to travel to Crimea. So what kind of person was Mary Seacole, and how do you know? I'd like you in a moment to talk about that with the person that you are working with, the person who's helping you. Remember, she decided she wanted to care for the soldiers. They turned her away, but she went anyway. She raised the money herself. So what kind of person must she have been? Pause the video while you talk about that. Okay, we will carry on now. There are just a few more facts about Mary for you here. She opened the British Hotel where she worked. She cared for the soldiers, she provided them with food and treated them with her herbal remedies. And she became known as Mother Seacole. That's what some of the soldiers started to call her. And she would help soldiers even in the middle of a battle, not just when they came to a hospital. And for this, she became loved and respected by both the soldiers who were fighting and the British people, the people back home who heard about all of the amazing things that she had done. In 1856, the war ended. She returned to Britain with little money. She'd not make money during the war. She went there to help people. But she was so popular with the soldiers that they raised money for her. And she wrote a book about her life called Wonderful Adventures of Mrs. Seacole in Many Lands. Turkey, the country where the war had been, they have since awarded Mary Seacole a medal for her bravery. She improved the lives of soldiers by opening a hospital to look after them, treating the soldiers with herbal remedies, and even helping them on the battlefield. And she was a great role model for people, but women in particular. She made her way in the world independently, did that herself, and was proud to be half Scottish and half Jamaican. She was proud of the fact that her parents had come from two different countries. And fortunately, for about 100 years, the work that she'd done had been forgotten about. But luckily, a group of nurses in Jamaica, they didn't want to let that happen. So they reminded everyone of what she did, and they made her name famous again and how significant she had been. For today's work, it's actually a game, and you've got the game pack in your envelope, and I'd like you to play with that. You might have counters and a dice. If you don't, you can always find a dice app. Ask your parent or carers to find a dice app on their phone. You could use different coloured beads or something for the counters. All you need to do is to help Mary get from Jamaica to the hospital in Crimea so she can help the soldiers. If you land on one of the pictures, have someone ask you a question, and if you answer that question correctly, you can move forward one more space. The questions are in your packs. Good luck, and I will see you next time.